Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuouki Demon of the Fleeting Blossom. We are along Heisuke's route. And we just had an encounter with Amagiri and Kazuma, but I believe everything is settled with them at the moment, right? I don't know, I can't remember exactly. It's been a couple days. But let's see. You can just sit back, relax, and let me read you a story. He gestured to Amagiri, and they turned to leave. They had gone several steps when Kazuma looked back over his shoulder at Heisuke and grinned.
You were lucky this time, Fig. I won't kill you now, but if or should I say when, that mind of yours does break, I will.
Their footsteps faded and then disappeared altogether. They were gone. At last! And such a rude departure. Oh yeah, that's right, okay. Sen offered herself up to Kazuma, that's what happened. Okay. Sen, you're so noble! You two are gonna have one beautiful baby, though. I have no doubt that he would call you a fake with his dying breath. She smiled softly, somewhat at odds with the excessively regal bearing she had adopted for Kazuma. Her sudden changes in behavior had left poor Heisuke rather confused. I knew it wasn't exactly the time for it, but I found his consternation funny. Thank you both for helping me.
No, you needn't thank me. It is my lady who deserves your gratitude. I have done nothing. However, we must go now. Those men were the greatest threat, but the Imperial Army is still nearby.
I'd almost forgotten.
Right, kinda forgot about that.
Perhaps we can catch up when we next meet in Edo. In any event, where would the pair of you go now?
We're heading to Osaka Castle. The rest of the Shinsengumi should be gathering there.
Oh, Osaka Castle. Oh well, that seems like an excellent plan, if I do say so myself. Wouldn't you agree, Kimikiku?
Yes. I hear that Yodo Castle has already betrayed the Shogun, but if you can make it past Yodo, then you should have no trouble reaching Osaka.
Oh, well thank you again. Is there anything I can do for you?
Another time, perhaps. Let us depart, Kimikiku.
And with that, they disappeared into the woods. Without Sen and Kimikiku, I had no doubt that our encounter with Kazuma and Amagiri would have ended very badly. Oh yeah. Our own safety assured, for the moment at least, I fell to wondering how the rest of the Shinsengumi had fared. One look at Heisuke confirmed that his thoughts mirrored mine. We needed to get to Osaka as quickly as possible. Run, 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 run. Upon reaching Osaka Castle, we discovered that the rest of the Shinsengumi had already found their way there. Our relief was to be short-lived, however. As the rebels' advantage became more apparent, the formerly loyal domains began to betray us, and the Shogun's retreat to Edo gave us no choice but to follow him. In the short days before our departure, I looked for Inoue and Yamazaki, but couldn't find them. How many other men had we lost, I wondered? The battle at Tobo Fushimi had been intense, but Sanan had returned from it unharmed. Well, he is a fury. I should have been glad. So many had died, but all I felt was apprehension and fear. He made me scared. I still want to love him. And I can't wait for the other games so I can romance him. Chapter 5. February 1868. The Shinsengumi was given a Hatamoto mansion in Edo to use as their headquarters. For the last several days, however, most of the leaders had been out. Since Kondo was still recovering from his gunshot wound, Hijikata had taken his place for the time being and was out conferring with the shogun nearly every day. Okita's condition had not improved, and he remained apart from the Shinsengumi in Dr. Matsumoto's care. Harada and Nagakura spent most of their time in Yoshiwara. It seemed like they were trying to forget about something, drowning themselves in pleasure. With so many people doing whatever they pleased, it seemed especially unfair that the Fury Corps was kept locked up in the headquarters, unable to go outside. It couldn't be helped, of course. Still, I wondered if they were upset about it. So far, they'd stayed peaceful and remained in their quarters, but I didn't know for how long that might last. Perhaps I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't shake that feeling of uneasiness. I don't blame you. I was busying myself with something or another one day when Sanan appeared.
Oh no, is he gonna start pressuring us again? Ah, Yukimura, do you have a moment? No. Sure. I hope this won't seem rude, but seeing as how we are in Edo, I was hoping you might take me to your home. Why? This is hardly proper. What? Perhaps I should have said Kodo's clinic. My hope is that he may have left some research on furies there. Well, I guess that is kind of a reasonable assumption. Oh. My father had been researching the water of life. Perhaps he would find something useful. Maybe we'd even find something we could use to suppress the bloodlust, or possibly even make the furies human again. What do you say, Yukimura? Will you consider my request? Can't I just give you directions? I didn't want to turn him down. After all, discoveries about furies could certainly benefit him, but I wasn't sure what his real intentions were anymore. He'd been acting strange. I need Hijikata's permission to leave the headquarters, so I don't really think it's a good idea. I'm sure he would give you permission for this, but he's in meetings every day. Who knows when you might get a chance to speak with him. Exactly! We have to wait! We have to wait to get permission from him! You're gonna have to wait, Sanan! If your father did leave something behind that can help us improve or control the furies, then don't you think Hijikata would want us to find it as soon as possible? He made a good point. I watched Heisuke suffer every day. There was very little I wouldn't do to help him. It wasn't that I didn't want to return to my old home, I just didn't want to go with Sanan. His eyes thinned slightly. Is something the matter? Is there something on your mind? Yes, I do not trust you at the moment. Well... You're just too embarrassed to admit you've been away for so long, and that you think you might not be able to find your way to your house. Well, am I right, Chizuru? Heisuke! How long have you been here? Oh, not too long. He grinned and winked at me, then turned to Sanan. So, Sanan, mind if I tag along? Perfect! Tag along? Well, I was at Kodo's clinic just the other day. I can probably get us there a lot quicker than Chizuru. Right, I'd asked Heisuke to check in at my house when he went to Edo all those months ago to recruit new soldiers. That was far from just the other day, but perhaps he felt Sanan didn't really need to know just how many days had passed. I see. Well then, perhaps it would be best for you to join us. Just leave it to me. Well, maybe not the searching part. I don't really read much, so I'll leave that part to Chizuru. He gave me a friendly, confident pat on the back, and I blushed. This is Kodo's clinic. Rather impressive, considering he worked alone. He had me! I hadn't seen it in years, and yet my old home still welcomed me back. There was a scratch on the wall from a prank I'd played on my father, and a childish drawing that I'd made on another wall one day when I was especially bored. The warmth of nostalgia crept over my body as I looked around at the only home I'd ever known. Thank you for coming with me, Heisuke. I'm sorry you had to go through all this trouble. That's nothing. Don't worry about it. I mean, if there is something that can help the Furies, that's definitely something that interests me. Besides... And here his voice dropped until only I could hear it, as his eyes flicked to Sanan's receding back. Just as I'd thought, he was suspicious of Sanan as well. My father's room was filled with Western books on anatomy and medicine, and bottles of medical plants and pills filled all the shelves. It was undoubtedly a treasure trove to anyone with some knowledge of medicine, but the books and medicines had meant little to me as a child, and I'd often found myself in trouble for touching or moving them. Alright, where do we start? I had a quick look around last time, but I wasn't looking for books and stuff back then. What? Something wrong, Chizuru? Did you go into my room? What? No, I didn't. I mean, how would I even know which one is yours? Maybe you wandered in on accident? There'll be plenty of time to flirt later. For now, if you see anything that mentions Furies, please bring it over here. I'll look through it. Even books on human anatomy would be useful, or anything about improving physical strength or tissue regeneration.
I nodded and went off to look through the piles of books and papers that my father had left behind. My thoughts drifted to the past. It seemed like he was in here treating someone every day. I wonder where he is right now. His soft smile floated up from my memories as I felt tears spring to my eyes. I quickly rubbed a hand across my face, embarrassed, but there was so much to remind me of him. Sometimes it seemed almost as if he was just about to walk through the door. What? It's been too long. Oh, well, no, I suppose not. No matter. How are you, Chizuru? I did not expect to see you here. Is Amagiri stopping by too? Every time I come here, it's like everybody gathers. Sen? What are you doing here? I'd nearly fallen over in surprise when she appeared, and my heart was only starting to beat again. Sen just smiled. Whatever do you mean? Did I not say we would see you in Edo? I suspected you'd come here, so I thought I'd wait. I see you brought Master Todo and Sanan, was it?
Yeah, thanks for what you did the other day. You really saved our asses.
You are the girl who claims to be a demon, I believe. What is your business here? Sen smiled and greeted both Heisuke and Sanan with a nod, then turned to me. Before we speak of anything else, I fear I have done you wrong. Suddenly she bowed deeply to me. I must apologize for my behavior at our last meeting. My words called into question the quality of your heritage, and perhaps even your character. I am so very sorry. What? But you said those things to save me. Sen's speech to Kazuma had clearly been calculated to showcase herself as the preferable option at the cost of my own reputation. Taking offense at that, however, was the furthest thing from my mind. The service she had done me far outweighed any slight. Oh my god, I cannot read today. I was far more concerned for Sen and the promise she had made with Kazuma for my sake. I'm more worried about you, Sen. You made some pretty serious promises to Kazuma about, You mean the bit about bearing his child? Well, I have been getting rather lonely. No, in truth, this is a choice that will benefit my clan first, and myself second. So she is going to enjoy this. She gave a strained laugh, and went on to explain that demons were rare, and women even more so. For that reason, demon women are expected to produce demon children from strong bloodlines. Kazuma wasn't a pleasant man, but his blood was pure. In truth, I've been dodging this duty for some time. Now seems to be a good time to fulfill my obligation as any. Kazuma is from a powerful clan, his blood is pure, and his lineage is excellent. But you don't even love him. True, but I want to keep our race alive, as does he. In a sense, this agreement is mutually beneficial. Arranged marriages weren't uncommon for humans, and it appeared demons were no different. As a princess in her clan, Sen was unlikely to be able to allow to marry for love. If it hadn't been Kazuma, it would have been some other man, likely as much of a stranger. But even so, I couldn't help but feel bad for my friend. She smiled. If you feel sad for me, then please, let the man you choose be a man you love, for my sake. It matters little if he is a demon, human, or something else, so long as you love him. I saw her eyes look past me toward Heisuke and Sanan. Sen... I wasn't sure what to say, so I just looked down at my fidgeting hands. Oh, come now, don't be like that. After all, I have not come here for the sole reason of lecturing you on love. Kimikiku has investigated the Furies.
What?
Suddenly, the air changed. Heisuke and Sanan both looked up, and I could feel their interest like a fire at my back. Maybe you should have talked to me about this in private, Sen. Did you learn anything about Furies, or perhaps about the Water of Life? Indeed, we have. Before they came to you, the Shogunate conducted Fury experiments of their own, with undiluted Water of Life. I thought perhaps you should know the outcome of those experiments. My stomach twitched. The Water of Life has a certain connection to the demon race, but not necessarily to you and I. You see, it was the blood of demons from the West, from France.
Wait, you're telling me there are demons outside of Japan?
Yes and no. There are creatures that are much like us in some ways, and quite different from us in others. They have the same strength and healing abilities that we do, but while these Western demons suffer from bloodlust, and feel weak under the sun's rays, we Japanese demons do not. Are we talking about vampires?
And then, the weaknesses the Furies have aren't the result of some mistake. We just inherited them from the Western demons.
This is fascinating. So this demon blood is what allows the water of life to give such godlike power to humans. Godlike? Don't be ridiculous. You do not understand the consequences of forcing demonic power into a human shell. She sighed heavily and shook her head. I got the impression that it wasn't Sanan's ignorance that disturbed her, but his interest. Whatever news she had for us was not good, but Sanan seemed oblivious. Heisuke, on the other hand, seemed to have noticed the same things I had. His eyes flicked to mine for a split second before going back to Sen.
What do you mean by that? Is there more than just being weak during the day and going crazy for blood?
As you know, Furies share the same regeneration and strength as demons, but the original body of the Fury is still human.
Cut to the chase, woman. What are you getting at?
A human body is different from a demon's. The demonic power the Water of Life grants is too much for it. Every time a Fury heals their wounds or uses their newfound strength, they chip away at their lives. What? I didn't understand what she was trying to say.
Chip away?
I barely even heard him. My ears were buzzing, and my entire body felt suddenly cold. If Sen meant what I thought she did. When I spoke, my voice shook. Then, Heisuke and Sanan. During the experiments the Shogun conducted, each of the men turned into Furies, used up the life they had, and turned to ash without exception. To ash? No, that's not possible.
What are you saying? You mean Sanan and I are just going to die soon?
You needn't believe me if you don't care to, but remember that I warned you. If you do not wish to unduly shorten your lifespan, refrain from using your Fury powers.
Well, your warning is very much appreciated.
Sanan's voice dripped with sarcasm. Well, you don't believe her? Sen turned to me. I intend to have Kimikiko investigate this matter further. Might I inquire as to where you are staying just now? Oh, well, we're using one of the Hatamoto mansions as our headquarters at the moment. If you ask someone to take you to the Shinsengumi headquarters, I'm sure they'll know the way. I see. Well then, if I should discover anything of importance, I shall be sure to visit you there. Well, never mind. Until we meet again then. She seemed unsure of how to end the conversation, so she smiled, bowed slightly, then turned and left. Guys? They didn't look good. I suspected I didn't look much better. Sen's story had been a shock to all of us.
Well, we may not have found anything useful here, but we did learn how to cure the bloodlust.
He spat the words and turned to leave as well. We didn't figure out how to cure the bloodlust? What are you talking about? Where are you going?
Back to the mansion. There's nothing else for me here, and I would like to gather my thoughts.
Heisuke and I were alone then, our only companion in awkward silence. I knew if we talked, our conversation would immediately turn to sense of revelation, and the thought of Heisuke's face as he considered his own demise was too painful for words. At last he spoke.
Come on, Chizuru. Why are you looking so spooked? After all, we did learn something. That's good, right?
Well, at least he can reserve his power some more. Aren't you scared?
Yeah, a little. But I can't say I haven't benefited from becoming a Fury. Hardly seems fair to complain now.
Yeah, he would have been dead a long time ago if it wasn't for this, I guess.
Besides, so long as I don't go crazy with this stuff, I should be able to live a little longer, right? Just need to lay off the super strength and regeneration. Easy.
But even as he spoke them, I could tell that Heisuke didn't believe a word he'd said. Since it had started, the war had only grown more intense. Without his Fury powers, Heisuke would likely have died. If he stopped, he would die. If he didn't stop, he would die. Every road led to death. He looked up at the sky and laughed, a hollow dead sound. Before I even realized it, I heard myself speak. You don't have to act tough. Not in front of me. You don't have to act tough, Heisuke.
What are you talking about? I'm not acting.
Yes, you are. Just watching you try to smile hurts. I grabbed hold of his sleeves and turned him to face me. The color had drained from his face except for a few mottled patches on his cheeks, and his movements were stiff and jerky. I could hardly blame him. Death is much more frightening when you can see it coming. I know I can't really do anything for you, but please promise me that you'll tell me when you're having a hard time. I don't want you putting on an act for my sake. My voice dropped to a mumble by the end, and I found myself staring at the floor. Heisuke laughed.
Thanks, Chizuru. I don't know if I can keep that promise, though. You know me, I'm a show-off. I always gotta act tough in front of the girl. In front of you. That's just what guys do, right? And besides, I know I'd die before I let something happen to you, so I don't think I can really make that promise.
Oh, Heisuke. Even after learning he'd probably die long before his time, he was still trying his best to look cool. It was hard for me to fault him, though, because whenever he smiled, it was like the rain stopped and the sun peeked through the clouds. Heisuke, you're such an idiot.
Well, maybe I am. And look, don't think you can't do anything for me, alright? Just having you around makes me happy enough. So, thanks. Again.
No matter how I might be feeling, Heisuke would always have a smile for me. That was just the sort of man he was. The cold February air hit us the moment we stepped outside.
Aren't you cold?
Oh no, I'm alright. Isn't winter almost over? It should be spring soon. Only a year ago we'd been dealing with the events surrounding the creation of the Guardian of the Imperial Tomb. In just a single year, so much had happened.
Yeah, you're right. It's almost spring. Hey, Chizuru. I was thinking about what Sen said earlier.
Oh?
Well, she said that if we use our fury powers a lot, then we'll turn into ash, but if that's the case, then why hasn't something happened to Sanan yet?
'Cause he's been drinking blood. I hadn't thought of that. In fact, it had been a while since Sanan became a fury. 3 years, in fact, if I was doing the math right. During that time, he'd fought in plenty of battles and used his fury strength in healing countless times, but he hadn't turned to ash or even shown signs of suffering from the bloodlust. Then, do you think maybe Sen got something wrong?
Well, I don't know about that. I was just thinking maybe he does get the bloodlust, but...
Heisuke, what's wrong? Is the bloodlust hitting him now?
Ugh!
He was bent double with pain, and suddenly sweat was already beginning to give his skin a sickly shine. When he swallowed, it was clearly with great effort, and I could hear pain in every breath he drew. I had seen him like this before.
What are the chances?
I knew what I had to do. Make him endure it. For our first ending. I'm so sorry, Heisuke. Asking him to simply endure the pain seemed pointlessly cruel, but what else was I to do? His hands began to claw at his chest, as if he were trying to tear himself open. How many more times would this happen? How many more times would he have to suffer pain like this? Heisuke, I was so helpless. With nothing else to do, I tried to content myself with stroking his back as tenderly as I could. Several days passed. The Shinsengumi was renamed the Koya Regulatory Company in an attempt to disguise themselves from the Imperial Army and sent to secure the area surrounding Kofu Castle. Kondo returned, along with the new orders, after his long absence. The Fury Corps was held back in the interest of continuing secrecy, but nearly everyone else was ordered to depart for Kofu. Something in the air told me that this would be like Toba Fushimi, and that worried me. Only a few days after the Koyo Regulatory Company was formed and ordered to Kofu, Hijikata called for Heisuke and myself. He looked slightly haggard and more stern than usual.
It's gonna be rough for Kondo, but this is a battle we won't win.
What? But it hasn't even started. How can you be so sure? I knew Hijikata said very little without carefully considering it first, but this was something of a shock.
Calm down, Chizuru. If Hijikata thinks so, then he's probably right.
Yeah, Kondo wasn't at Toba Fushimi. He still thinks we can win if we get close, regardless of how powerful their guns are. It's not that easy.
Kondo's courage and, if we were to be honest, recklessness had helped inspire the Shinsengumi in the past, but this was a different sort of enemy from any they'd fought before. For a moment I was back at Toba Fushimi, the air thick with deadly bullets. I shivered. But, if you already know you're going to lose, why are you going?
You know Kondo. You really think he'd back down from a fight? Ever? No. Most I can do is try and limit our casualties.
Sadly.
Which is why you're here. I want you to prepare our counterattack. Work with Matsumoto and gather up as many guns and ammo as you can.
Such an order was nothing strange of Heisuke, but it was rare for Hijikata to directly order me to do anything that didn't involve tea. Perhaps it was nothing more than an indication of how desperate our situation was, and yet... Hijikata? Are you sure you want me to stay here? I'm not supposed to go with the regulatory company? Wait, are the Furies staying here too?
Why send you to a battle we know we're going to lose? No, safer you stay here. Well, maybe not as safe as I'd like.
Hey, come on. I'm gonna be here, and a bunch of other guys. You're hurting my feelings, Commander.
He grinned, but Hijikata just shook his head. There was no trace of a smile there. Indeed, his frown deepened even further.
Not doubting you, Heisuke. Have you heard about the killer who's been running around Edo? I saw one of the victims. The body was cut up so bad we couldn't even identify it.
That must be Sanan. Not the victim, but the perpetrator. I don't know about Heisuke, but I'd certainly heard the rumors. The killer didn't care if his victims were men or women, old or young, as long as they had blood. Still, as frightening as he was, it didn't seem very likely that a killer would try to attack the Shinsengumi headquarters.
That remind you of anything? Another dead guy back in Kyoto, maybe?
Oh, crap. You mean Sanan?
Yeah, it's a little too close for comfort.
Oh! Back in Kyoto, Sanan and his team of Furies had spent most of their time chasing down or killing Ronin. Once they cut a man almost literally to ribbons. I hadn't seen it, but the descriptions I'd overheard had been sickening. If those Edo killings were similar... But it's not Ronin this time. These people are just people. Do you really think Sanan could...
I'm not saying anything yet, but you should be prepared for the worst, and don't tell Sanan any of this. Heisuke, while I'm gone, I want you to keep an eye on Sanan, and her too.
Right, on it.
The next day, the mansion felt strangely empty. Only myself, Heisuke, and the Fury Corps remained. Several days later, Heisuke and I were on our way back from a meeting with Dr. Matsumoto. Hijikata had set the wheels in motion before he left, so our task had been relatively easy. Sanan, however, was still a concern. So far, I hadn't done anything to merit suspicion, and I was beginning to think that perhaps Hijikata had been overthinking things. We were nearly back to the mansion when Heisuke held out a hand to stop me. You sense something? Are spider senses tingling? Oh, is something wrong? Shh. I strained my ears but heard nothing. No clang of swords, no men screaming in pain. In fact, it was quiet. Very quiet. I don't hear anything.
Exactly. It's too quiet. Something's wrong.
Of course. Even with most of the Shinsengumi gone to Kofu Castle, the mansion was never this quiet. During the day, perhaps, when all the Furies were asleep, but at night, we should have heard one or two conversations. Tonight there was nothing. It didn't take us long to determine that the mansion was completely empty. We ran outside into the vacant streets of nighttime Edo. With the Imperial Army still on the march, and the more recent rumors of vicious killings in the city, it wasn't surprising to find no one on the street at night.
Damn it! Hijikata told me to keep an eye on Sanan.
You didn't do your job, Heisuke. It's not your fault, Heisuke. Even you can't watch him all the time.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Still, we gotta find him as soon as possible.
We had no real evidence to suggest why Sanan and the Fury Corps disappeared, but it wasn't difficult to guess. My hopes that we might be wrong were shattered by a scream. Heisuke! Over there! A pair of men stood several yards away, each with a glistening sword in his hand. Lying at their feet was a young girl, lying face down in the pool of blood.
You bastards!
Heisuke leapt toward them like the wind, his sword already out. His sword bit deep into one man's side, then swung around to carve a deep red line through the other's legs. No human could have survived his attack. But these are Furies. No human. I watched as the two men stood unconcerned with their mortal wounds, and felt my stomach drop. Furies? Then they're... Even as I spoke, their wounds closed, and they turned to run. Before Heisuke could begin to give chase, I heard the whisper of metal passing through flesh. One of the Furies froze, twitched, and split. Standing behind him, glaring out at us through the spray of blood, was a demon. Which one?
Not worth my time.
Kazuma!
I ran to the girl and turned her over to check for a pulse. There was none. I pursed my lips and took a quick deep breath before turning to look at Kazuma. Why are you here?
I could ask you the same. Now, could you tell your pet Shinsengumi to stop adding to my problems by releasing their disgusting creatures into the streets?
Like I command them. What makes you think they're my pets? Heisuke rolled the dead fury over with a shove of his foot and grimaced. He was one of ours.
Yeah, this one was one of our guys. I don't know, though.
Do you think Sanan did this? Our worst fears were proving to be true, and neither Heisuke nor I was pleased about it. He frowned and rubbed his hand across his chin in thought.
What do you mean? Are you saying you didn't command this filth to go forth and murder?
Heisuke looked at Kazuma for several long moments, weighing his options. At last he sighed.
No, the man who's in charge of them is the man who leads our Fury Corps. It's looking like he thinks he can do just whatever he wants while the chief's out of town.
Pathetic. But then, what can one expect from farmers and peasants? You can't even control your own men.
As maddening as his attitude was, his words struck home. Kazuma considered us for a few seconds before continuing.
Fine. Tell me where I can find the so-called leader of these creatures.
Why? Don't tell me you're planning on helping us.
I'm not here to wipe your collective asses, but something has to be done or eventually the Satsuma will catch wind of it and demand I deal with the problem. Less work for me if I destroy the root cause now.
Then he did intend to help us? I stared at Kazuma, but he only smirked back at me.
And besides, seeing these fakes running around makes me sick.
Heisuke frowned, none too pleased about having Kazuma around, but there was no denying the demon's skill. Indeed, there is no denying that, which I really wish we could have seen more of in his own route. But anyway, we're gonna stop for there, and we'll pick this up in the next episode, so hope to see you there or in some of my other videos, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye-bye, everybody.